Aloha NASA engineers! Today we will be investigating a little bit about how to build the structure of a house. So let's get started. As we go on today, I'm going to give you a little bit of information and then I'm going to ask you to pause. Then you will be drawing the section that I've been talking about. And so each section is going to build upon the other until you have the full house. And then you're also going to add the purpose of that section and the elements that make up that section. All right, here we go. So there are just three basic parts to creating a building. The first part is the part here. It's called the foundation. Then next up we have the main structure piece, which would be all of this. And then finally we have the roof. You probably guessed that one. So let's take a look at the foundation. The foundation is the surface that creates a flat, even surface that the house will sit upon. So this also helps to keep weight distributed evenly to make sure that the house stays safe and strong for a long time. There are two different pieces or elements that make up this foundation. The first one is called the shaping element. So that's basically exactly what it sounds like. So it helps shape the foundation. And the other piece of the foundation is the anchoring elements. The anchoring elements make sure that the house is secured into the ground so that nothing can hurt it, like bad weather, shaking of something, perhaps a dust storm, something like that. So here are some examples of foundations. Okay. So you have here just a very, very basic foundation. So there would be 4 of these at each corner of this basic shelter, and it would be a nice flat surface that the rest of the house is upon. Here you have a wooden foundation, and then down here you will notice it is a stone wall. Concrete. The shaping element, and you can also see the pieces right here. That is part of the anchoring element. So let's take a little bit more look at those. Okay. So here's our foundation with these elements. If we looked at the side view of it, you would notice something like this. So here you have in between the ground and the rest of the house. This one is actually piling rods. So what happens here most often, this would be used in a place where something might go under the house. So for instance, if there was a flood, you might see this perhaps on the North Shore or something like that a lot. So the houses are built up on the foundation so the water can go through and the house will still be secure. And then finally, sometimes in like a shed or something like that, you don't even need to go into the ground because it doesn't need to be secure. And so that's a picture of that one. All right, so it's time for me to pause this video. So what you're going to do now is draw the foundation and think about what you would want in your shelter. So as you do that, I also want you to write down the foundation's purpose and what makes up the foundation. Feel free to look back to get the right answers. Okay, let's go on to the second piece of our structure. It's called the main structure. This is usually the part where most people live. The floor, it can be 1 floor, 2 floor, in the like condos, many floors. So the purpose of this area is to give the house not only its shape, but also to section off each of the rooms or the living spaces within the house. So within the main structure, there are 3 elements that create this main structure. The first one is the framing element. So you create the frame, which provides the shape, and it also provides the strength within the house. On top of that, you would put the next element, the wall elements. So the walls would cover the frame, and then it gives the shape of the rooms. But in order to put all that together, you need the last element there, which is the fastening elements. So this keeps the frames together. You can probably think of a few, right? So things like, for instance, nails, screws, some kind of adhesive like a strong adhesive like a glue, but obviously it would be stronger within a house form. So here we have an example of that. So this is an example of the frame. So if you notice, you can see the main sections of the house, but you wouldn't want to necessarily live in this house because there's still things that can get through really easily. It wouldn't help us much. So then they add the second part, the walls. So this is just the basic part of adding the walls. They would add a lot more to it than this. They're in the process of doing that now. All right, it's time to pause this video again. Go ahead and draw the main structure. Think about what you might want within your shelter. As you do that, please make sure to add notes about the main structure's purpose and the elements that make up the main structure. All right, and for the final section, the roof. So obviously you probably figured out what the roof is. It's the covering, the top cover of the house. So the main purpose of the roof is to keep out the weather from entering into the house, right? Especially if it's hot weather, harsh weather, or hot weather, it helps to keep it cool. If you live in cooler places, there's insulation, so it helps keep the cooler air in. The elements that make up the roof are fairly similar to what we've already heard with the main structure. So you would also have a frame, but they would also put a covering element over that. So I'm putting these two together, so frame and covering elements. And then also you've got to put those together. So just like in the main structure here, you would have the fastening elements. So those nails or screws or things like that would keep the roof together. So here we have an example of that. So this is the frame and the coverings. So here you can see the framing of the roof, and then on top of it they put these coverings. Lastly, this would be like the shingles on the roof. But that is all part of the framing and covering. And then once they put those all together, you would use the fastening elements to keep it all down. All right, so you can go ahead and pause this video. Please make sure that you draw the roof and add notes about the roof's purpose and the elements that make up the roof. And actually, this is the ending of our video. So I hope you have some good notes, and we are getting really close to be able to build a shelter. I will be excited to start that with you within the upcoming days.